The rain on Kaler 7 never really stopped. It wasn't the kind of rain you'd find on Earth. Gentle, soothing, the kind that made you want to curl up with a book. No, this was acid-tinged, purple-tinted, and it fell in sheets that could strip paint off a starship hull if you stood in it too long. The colonists called it the wash, and they'd learned to live with it, same as they'd learned to live with the constant hum of the atmospheric processors and the distant howl of things that moved in the mist. I'd been stationed at the Kaler 7 medical facility for 11 months. 11 months of treating frostbite, respiratory infections, and the occasional plasma burn from the mining equipment. 11 months of watching the humans try to carve out a life on a world that clearly didn't want them. 11 months of missing Earth's blue skies, and the way the sun felt on your skin when it wasn't trying to kill you. The facility was a squat, prefabricated building that had been dropped from orbit and bolted to the ground. It looked like a shipping container that had been stepped on by something very large. Inside, it was cramped, sterile, and always smelled faintly of antiseptic and recycled air. We had 30 beds, a surgical suite that was held together with hope and duct tape, and a staff of 12 humans who worked 18-hour shifts and rarely complained. I was the head physician, which meant I was the one who got called when things went sideways. "Dr. Chen," the voice crackled through the intercom, tinny and urgent. "Dr. Chen, we have an incoming. Priority 1. I looked up from the datapad I'd been studying, a report on a new strain of fungal infection that was eating through the hydroponics bay, and felt my stomach drop. Priority 1. That meant someone was dying. "What is it, Tanya?" I asked, already moving toward the triage bay. The facility was small enough that I could hear the distant clatter of boots on metal flooring, the hiss of the decontamination showers cycling. "Unknown life form, sir. The mining team found it in the eastern sector. It's not human." I stopped. The eastern sector. That was where they'd been digging, trying to find more of the Kalerite crystals that powered the colony's shields. But the eastern sector was also where the ruins were, the ancient structures that predated human arrival by thousands of years. We'd known there had been an advanced civilization on Kaler 7 once. We'd found their buildings, their artifacts, their strange machines that still hummed with power even after millennia of neglect. But we'd never found any of the beings themselves. Until now. "How bad?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Bad, sir. It's dying. The team said it just collapsed out of the mist. It was dragging itself toward the colony. They brought it in on a stretcher." I reached the triage bay just as the doors slid open. 2 of the mining crew were carrying a stretcher, their faces pale beneath the grime of their work suits. On the stretcher, wrapped in a thermal blanket that was already stained purple, was the most beautiful and terrifying thing I'd ever seen. She was humanoid vaguely, but that's where the resemblance ended. Her skin was the color of twilight, deep purple fading to lavender at her extremities, and it shimmered faintly, as if it were covered in a layer of microscopic scales. Her hair was a cascade of silver white that seemed to glow with its own inner light. Her face was delicate, with high cheekbones and a small, pointed chin. Her eyes were closed, but I could see the faint movement beneath her lids, the twitch of her fingers. And she was dying. I didn't need the medical scanner to tell me that. I could see it in the way her chest barely rose and fell, in the pallor that had taken hold of her features, in the blood that seeped through the blanket, a dark, almost black liquid that smelled like ozone and copper. "Get her to the surgical suite," I said, my training taking over. "I need a full scan now. Tanya, I need you with me. Everyone else clear the room." The mining team backed away, their eyes wide. They'd been out in the mist, they'd seen things out there, but this was different. This was something they couldn't explain, couldn't fit into the neat categories of hostile or safe. I followed the stretcher into the surgical suite, already pulling on sterile gloves. The room was small, barely large enough for the bed and the equipment. The lights flickered once, then steadied. The scanners hummed to life, casting a pale blue glow over the alien's body. Scanning now, Tanya said, her voice tight. She was a good nurse, calm, competent, the kind of person you wanted in a crisis. But even she was struggling to keep her composure. Dr. Chen, you need to see this. I moved to the display, my heart pounding. The scan results were wrong. Not wrong in the sense of inaccurate, but wrong in the sense of impossible. Her physiology was like nothing I'd ever seen. She had organs where no organs should be, pathways that didn't correspond to any known biological system. But the most alarming part was the energy signature. I'm reading high levels of something, Tanya said, frowning at the display. It's not radiation, not plasma, it's like a biological energy field, but it's fading rapidly. She's running out of power, I said, understanding dawning. Whatever sustains her, it's failing. We need to stabilize her. How? We don't have anything that matches her physiology. We don't even know what she needs. I didn't have an answer. I'd treated humans, Kaelorites, even the occasional Vitarian who'd gotten lost and wandered into our sector. But this was something else, something ancient, something that had been sleeping for millennia and had just woken up to die. Keep the scans running, I said, moving to the bed. I need to examine her directly. I pulled back the thermal blanket and my breath caught. The wounds were wrong. There were tears in her skin, deep gashes that should have been fatal, but they weren't bleeding the way human wounds bled. Instead, the edges of the wounds were glowing faintly, a soft purple light that pulsed like a heartbeat. What did this? I asked, not really expecting an answer. The mining team leader stepped forward, his face pale. We don't know, Doc. We found her in the ruins. There was something else there. We didn't see it, but we heard it. A kind of clicking sound like claws on stone. She was trying to get away from it. Did it follow her? I don't think so. The mist closed in and we lost sight of her. When we found her again, she was just lying there. Like she'd given up. I looked down at the alien princess, and I knew she was a princess. Somehow, I could feel it in the way she held herself even in death's grip, in the delicate jewelry that clung to her fingers and ears, and felt a wave of sadness wash over me. She was so young, so fragile, and she was dying in a facility that was barely equipped to handle a broken arm. I need to try something, I said, the words coming out before I'd fully formed the thought. Dr. Chen, Tanya's voice was sharp. What are you doing? I didn't answer. Instead, I reached out and placed my hand on the alien's arm. The skin was cold, colder than it should have been, and there was a faint vibration beneath my fingers, like the hum of a dying engine. And then something happened. A jolt, electric and sharp, shot through my arm. I tried to pull back, but I couldn't. My hand was stuck as if it had been glued to her skin. The alien's eyes snapped open, and I found myself staring into pools of pure darkness, flecked with stars. Don't let go, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Please don't let go. I'm not, I said, though I wasn't sure why. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. The words felt wrong coming out of my mouth. I'd been trained to be clinical, to keep my distance. I'd never touched a patient like this before, never felt this kind of connection to someone I just met. But with her, it felt natural, necessary. The scanner started screaming. Dr. Chen, Tanya shouted. Her energy levels are spiking. It's off the charts. I looked up at the display and my blood ran cold. The readings were impossible. Her energy field was expanding, growing brighter, more intense. But the strangest part was the transfer. My own energy signature, the faint biological glow that all humans had, was also showing on the display. And it was moving into her. What's happening? I asked, my voice shaking. I don't know, Tanya said. It's like she's taking your energy, but not just your energy. She's taking something else, something I can't identify. I looked down at the alien, and for the first time I saw her face clearly. It was beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. She was looking at me with those star-filled eyes, and there was something in them that I couldn't quite name. Gratitude. Wonder, love. Thank you, she breathed. Thank you for finding me. And then her eyes closed, and her body went still. No, I said, my voice breaking. No, don't you dare die on me. I pulled my hand away, and the scanner went quiet. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the equipment. Tanya was staring at me, her face pale. She's stable, Tanya said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her energy levels have plateaued. The wounds are healing. I don't understand how, but she's going to live. I looked down at my hand. There was a faint glow on my palm, a shimmering purple light that was slowly fading. I felt different, not tired, not weak, but changed, like something had been taken from me and replaced with something else. Dr. Chen, Tanya said, her voice sharp, you need to see this. She gestured to the display, and I felt my heart stop. The scanner was showing my energy signature again, but it wasn't the same as before. It was brighter, more complex. There were patterns in it that I'd never seen, frequencies that didn't belong to any human. What did I just do? I whispered. Tanya shook her head. I don't know, sir, but I think you just saved her life, and I think you just changed your own. The night before. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those star-filled eyes staring back at me. I heard her voice, soft and desperate, begging me not to let go. I felt the electric jolt of the transfer, the warmth that had spread through my body as something passed between us. I spent the night in my office, staring at the display that showed the alien's vital signs. She was stable, but she hadn't woken up. The wounds on her body had healed, leaving behind faint, silvery scars that glowed in the dark. Her energy levels were holding steady, but they were still far below what the scanners thought they should be. Tanya had come in twice, bringing coffee and asking if I was okay. I told her I was fine, but we both knew it was a lie. I wasn't fine. I wasn't sure I ever would be again. The colony was buzzing with news of what had happened. The mining team had spread the word, and now everyone knew that we had an alien in the medical facility. Speculation was running wild. Some thought she was a scout, sent by a hostile empire to find weaknesses in our defenses. Others thought she was a refugee, fleeing a war that had consumed her world. Still others thought she was a myth, a legend from the ancient stories that had finally become real. I didn't care about any of that. All I cared about was making sure she survived. At dawn, I went back to the surgical suite. She was still asleep, her chest rising and falling in a slow, steady rhythm. The silver-white hair was spread out on the pillow like a halo. She looked peaceful, almost human. Hey, I said, my voice soft. I don't know if you can hear me, but I just wanted to tell you that you're safe. No one's going to hurt you here. There was no response. I hadn't expected one. But I felt better for having said it. I sat down in the chair next to her bed and waited. The awakening. It happened 3 days later. I was in the middle of a shift, treating a miner who'd been injured in a cave-in, when Tanya's voice crackled through the intercom. Dr. Chen, she's awake. I dropped the scalpel I was holding and ran. The miner would have to wait. This was more important. When I burst into the surgical suite, she was sitting up in the bed, her eyes wide and frightened. She was clutching the thermal blanket to her chest, and there was a trembling in her hands that I hadn't seen before. Hey, I said, holding up my hands in a gesture of peace. It's okay, you're safe. No one's going to hurt you. She looked at me, and for a moment I saw recognition in her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by fear. You, she said, her voice a bare whisper, you're the one who touched me. Yes, I said, moving closer. My name is Dr. Chen. I'm a physician. I helped you. You healed me, she said, and there was something strange in her voice. Awe, maybe, or terror. How did you do that? How did you give me your life force? I don't know, I admitted. I just touched you, and then something happened. I don't understand it any more than you do. She stared at me, her dark eyes searching mine. Then she let out a breath I didn't realize she'd been holding. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry for the fear. It's been so long since I've been around anyone. I'd forgotten what it feels like. It's okay, I said, sitting down in the chair next to her bed. You don't have to apologize. You've been through a lot. She nodded, her gaze dropping to the blanket. The forgers, they found me, didn't they? The forgers, I asked, frowning. I don't know what that means. Creatures from the dark, she said, her voice dropping even lower. They've been hunting me for years. They can't stand the light, can't stand the life that I carry. They want to extinguish it, to snuff it out so that the darkness can spread. The words sent a chill down my spine. I'd heard stories about creatures that lived in the mist, things that came out at night and dragged people into the shadows. I'd always dismissed them as folk tales, the kind of stories that miners told each other when they were bored and scared. But now, hearing it from her, I wasn't so sure. They won't follow you here, I said, trying to sound confident. You're safe in the colony. We have shields, weapons. We can protect you. She shook her head, a sad smile playing at the corners of her mouth. You don't understand. They're not creatures of the physical world. They're something else, something older. They can't be stopped by shields or weapons. They can only be stopped by the light. The light, I repeated. What light? She looked at me, and her eyes glowed with that internal light I'd seen before. The light that I carry, the light that you gave back to me. I didn't understand what she was saying. I didn't understand any of it. But I knew, with a certainty that surprised me, that she was telling the truth. Tell me, I said, what happened to you? Why were you in the ruins? Her gaze drifted to the window where the purple rain was still falling in sheets. I was running, she said, running from them. I'd been running for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to stop. I found the ruins, felt the echoes of my people's energy there, and I thought maybe I could hide. It didn't work. No, she said, her voice hollow. They found me. They always find me. But I kept running, kept dragging myself through the mist, hoping that someone would find me before the end. I felt a surge of anger, not at her, she was innocent, a victim, but at the creatures that had done this to her. What happened when you touched me? Why did I heal you? I think, she paused, frowning. I think you're a carrier. A carrier? I shook my head. What's that? I've never heard of it. It's a legend among my people, she said. A myth, really, but maybe it's true. The stories say that there are beings in the universe who carry a special kind of energy, the energy of creation itself. They don't know they have it, not until they're tested. But when they're tested, when they're faced with someone who's dying, the energy awakens. It flows out of them into the dying and it heals them. I stared at her, dumbfounded. That's crazy. That's not how medicine works. You don't just magically heal someone by touching them. She smiled, a soft, sad smile that made my heart ache. And yet I'm still here. I should have died in the mist, but I didn't. Because you touched me. I had no answer for that. I sat there in the quiet of the surgical suite and tried to process everything she'd told me. It was impossible. It was insane. And yet I couldn't deny what I'd seen. The wounds that had healed, the energy that had transferred. Who are you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What's your name? I am Lyra, she said, her dark eyes meeting mine. Lyra of the Solaris, last of my line, and I am in your debt. Lyra, I repeated, tasting the name on my tongue. It's beautiful. Her smile widened just slightly. You're kind, Dr. Chen, but you don't have to be kind. You've already saved my life. That's more than enough. I don't know if I saved your life, I said. I don't even know what I did. You let me live, she said. That's all that matters. The visitor. 3 days after Lyra woke up, the colony got a visitor. I was in the surgical suite, checking Lyra's vital signs, when the alarms went off. The blaring siren cut through the facility like a knife, and I felt my heart drop into my stomach. What's happening? Lyra asked, her eyes wide with fear. I don't know, I said, already moving toward the door. Stay here, don't move. I ran to the command center, where Tanya and the rest of the staff were gathered around the main display. The screen showed the space above Kaler 7, and my blood ran cold when I saw what was there. A ship, a massive, sleek vessel that gleamed like obsidian in the light of the distant sun. It was shaped like a teardrop, elegant and deadly, and it was descending toward the colony with a speed that made my stomach lurch. "Are they hostile?" I asked, my voice tight. "Unknown," Tanya said, her fingers flying across the controls. "We're trying to open a channel, but they're not responding. They're just coming down." "Evacuate the facility," I said, my training taking over. "Get everyone into the shelters. I want weapons ready, but don't fire unless I give the order." The staff moved with the speed that came from months of drilling. I watched them go, my mind racing. Who were these people? What did they want? And why had they come here? I was still trying to figure it out when the ship landed. It touched down in the clearing just outside the colony, its landing struts sinking into the mud with a groan of protesting metal. A ramp descended from the hull, and two figures stepped out into the purple rain. They were tall, easily 7 feet, with skin that glowed faintly like embers. Their eyes were slitted, reptilian, and they moved with a fluid grace that spoke of centuries of evolution. They were wearing what looked like ceremonial robes, black and silver, and they carried no weapons. "Dr. Chen." The voice came from behind me, and I turned to find Lyra standing in the doorway of the command center. She was wearing a hospital gown, her silver-white hair tangled and matted, but there was a regal bearing to her that made my breath catch. "Lyra, you shouldn't be out of bed," I said, moving toward her. "I know who they are," she said, her eyes fixed on the display. "They're Solaris, my people. They've come for me." "Your people?" I frowned. "But you said you were the last of your line." "I am," she said, her voice hollow. "These are not my blood. They're a different faction, a splinter group that broke away from the Solaris Empire centuries ago. They've been hunting me, trying to claim the energy I carry for themselves." The words hit me like a physical blow. "They're forgers." "No," she said, shaking her head. "The forgers are something else. These are just opportunists. They see my power and they want it. They don't understand what it means." "What does it mean?" I asked, feeling a chill run down my spine. She turned to look at me, her dark eyes filled with something I couldn't name. "It means that if they get their hands on me, they'll use my energy to destroy. They'll tear apart worlds, conquer galaxies. They'll become unstoppable." I stared at her, my mind reeling. This was too much, too big. I was a physician, a simple man who'd grown up on Earth and dreamed of helping people. I wasn't equipped to handle intergalactic politics and ancient energies and shadow creatures from the darkness. But I was all she had. "What do you want me to do?" I asked, my voice hoarse. She reached out and took my hand. Her skin was warm now, warmer than it had been when I'd first touched her. There was a spark of energy that passed between us, faint but unmistakable. "You need to come with me," she said. "Face them with me, show them what you are." "What I am?" I shook my head. "I don't know what I am." "You are a carrier," she said, "and that means more than you know." The confrontation. I walked with Lyra to the edge of the colony, my heart pounding in my chest. The rain was falling harder now, stinging my skin and fogging my visor. I could barely make out the two Solaris figures, silhouetted against the glow of their ship. "Stay behind me," I said to Lyra, stepping in front of her. She laughed, a soft, musical sound that made me smile despite everything. "You're very brave, Dr. Chen, but I'm the one with the power." "You're the one they want," I said. "I'm the one who's going to protect you." The two Solaris stopped when we were 10 feet apart. Their slitted eyes studied me, appraising, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "Human," one of them said, his voice a deep rumble. "You have something that belongs to us. Give it back." "She's not a thing," I said, my voice steady. "She's a person, and she's not going anywhere with you." The Solaris smiled, a thin, predatory smile that made my skin crawl. You don't understand, human. She carries the energy of the Solaris Empire. That energy belongs to us. It is our birthright. She carries the energy of her people, I said, the ones who were slaughtered by the forgers. You have no claim on her. The smile faded. You know about the forgers. I know enough, I said. I know that you're not here to save her. You're here to exploit her. The Solaris looked at each other, exchanging a glance that I couldn't read. Then the one who had spoken took a step closer. Human, he said, his voice dropping to a whisper, you are either very brave or very foolish. But it doesn't matter. We will take her and we will take whatever power she carries, and you cannot stop us. I felt a surge of anger, hot and sharp. You want to see what I can do? I asked, stepping forward. Fine, let me show you. I reached out and touched Lyra's hand. The moment our skin connected, I felt the energy flow through me, a golden light that pulsed from my palm into hers. It was warm, bright, like 1,000 suns exploding all at once. I felt it spread through my body, filling me with a power I didn't understand. The Solaris staggered backward, shielding their eyes from the glow. What is this? One of them shouted. What are you doing? Showing you what a carrier can do, I said, my voice echoing with a power that wasn't entirely my own. The energy rose higher, brighter, until the entire clearing was bathed in golden light. The rain stopped, the mist cleared, and for one perfect moment the world was still. And then the light faded. The Solaris were gone, their ship was gone. They'd fled, perhaps back into the stars, perhaps just out of sight. I didn't care. I turned to Lyra, my body trembling with exhaustion. Are you okay? I asked. She was staring at me, her star-filled eyes wide with wonder. You're amazing, she breathed. You're more than a carrier, you're something else. Something new. I shook my head, a weary smile crossing my face. I'm just a doctor, I said, a doctor who fell into something he doesn't understand. She stepped closer, and for a moment I thought she was going to kiss me. But she just touched my cheek, her hand warm against my skin. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs, she said. Someone who doesn't understand, someone who's willing to try anyway. Part 2. The Aftertaste. I woke up the next morning feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Every muscle in my body ached, and there was a strange tingling sensation in my hands that I couldn't shake. I lay in bed for a long time, staring at the ceiling and trying to process everything that had happened. The Solaris ambassadors, the golden light. The power that had surged through me like a tidal wave. It felt like a dream, like something I'd hallucinated while lying in a fever. But the tingling in my hands was real. The exhaustion in my bones was real. And the memory of Lyra's star-filled eyes was all too real. I dragged myself out of bed and went to the surgical suite. Lyra was already awake, sitting up in the bed and looking at something on a datapad. She smiled when I walked in, and my heart did something strange and unsteady. Good morning, Dr. Chen, she said, her voice soft and musical. I trust you slept well. I felt better, I admitted, rubbing my temples. What's that? She held up the datapad, and I saw that it was displaying the energy signature from the Solaris ship. It was different, darker, more unstable. We detected a residual energy field, she said. Something the Solaris left behind when they fled. It's not harmful, but it's definitely strange. I studied the display, frowning. The signature was complex, with patterns that didn't make sense to me. But there was something familiar about it, something that tickled the back of my mind. That's the same energy I felt when I touched you, I said slowly. The forgers, that's the energy they carry. Lyra nodded, her expression grave. You're right. The Solaris have been touched by the forgers. They've become tainted. They don't know it, but they're carrying a piece of the darkness with them. The words sent a chill down my spine. What does that mean? Are they dangerous? They're not dangerous to us, she said. Not directly. But the more they spread the energy, the more it attracts the forgers. It's like a beacon, a signal that says, "Come here, we're waiting for you." I sank into the chair next to her bed. So the Solaris are inadvertently leading the forgers right to us. "Yes," she said, her voice heavy. "And if the forgers find us, they'll destroy everything. The colony, the planet, everything." I sat there staring at the display and felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on my shoulders. I was just a doctor, a human who'd stumbled into a cosmic conspiracy that was way above his pay grade. But I couldn't walk away. Not now. Not when so much was at stake. "How do we stop them?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Lyra reached out and took my hand. Her skin was warm, and I felt a spark of energy pass between us. "We need to send a message," she said. "A message that will reach the Solaris Empire, the real Solaris Empire, the ones who have been fighting the forgers for centuries. We need to tell them what's happening." "How do we do that?" Her smile was thin, almost sad. "You're going to have to use your power, your energy. You're going to have to be the beacon." The plan. I spent the next 3 days working with Lyra and the colony's scientists to figure out how to use my power. It was frustrating work because I didn't understand what I was doing. I felt the energy inside me, a warm, golden glow that pulsed in time with my heartbeat. But I couldn't control it, not consistently. "The problem is that you're using it instinctively," Lyra explained, sitting cross-legged on the bed, her dark eyes focused on mine. "You're not channeling it with intention, you're just letting it out." "How do I change that?" I asked, frustrated. "I'm not a monk, I don't know how to meditate." "Meditation is helpful," she said, smiling slightly, "but it's not the only way. You need to focus on what you want to happen. Visualize it, feel it, make it real in your mind." I closed my eyes and tried. I thought about the message we needed to send, the words we wanted the Solaris Empire to hear. I thought about Lyra, about her people's struggle against the forgers. I thought about the golden light I'd felt when I'd touched her, and I tried to summon it again. Nothing happened. "I can't do it," I said, opening my eyes. "I don't know how." Lyra reached out and took my hand. "You're trying too hard," she said. "Let go, stop trying to control it, just be." I looked at her, at the way the light from the window caught her silver-white hair, and felt something shift inside me. The golden light began to glow, faintly at first, then brighter. I felt it flow through me, warm and steady, and I realized that I wasn't summoning it. I was releasing it. "Now," Lyra said, her voice soft but urgent, "send it out, send it to the stars." I closed my eyes and felt the light expand, reaching out beyond the facility, beyond the colony, beyond the planet itself. I sent it out into the void, a beacon of hope and warning. I didn't know if it would reach anyone, but I had to try. When I opened my eyes, Lyra was smiling. "Good job," she said. "You did it." "Did it work?" I asked, my voice hoarse. She nodded, her eyes bright. "I felt it. The signal went out. It's going to take time for it to reach the Solaris Empire, but it will reach them. They'll know what's happening." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Good, that's good." But even as I said it, I felt a cold knot of fear forming in my stomach. Because somewhere out there, in the darkness of space, the Solaris who had been tainted by the forgers were heading this way. And I had no idea how to stop them. The first wave. They came a week later. I was in the surgical suite, checking on Lyra's recovery, when the alarms went off. The blaring siren sliced through the facility like a knife, and I felt my blood run cold. "Everyone to the shelters," I shouted, already moving toward the command center. "Get the civilians underground." The facility was a madhouse of running bodies and screaming voices. I pushed through the crowd, my heart pounding in my chest. When I reached the command center, Tanya was already there, her face pale and her hands trembling. "Dr. Chen, look," she said, pointing at the main display. The screen showed the space above Kalar 7, And on it, descending through the atmosphere, were three massive ships. They were black, sleek, and covered in weapons. "The Solaris," I breathed. "They found us." "We're not responding," Tanya said, her voice shaking. "We've tried hailing them, tried everything. They're not answering." "Evacuate the colony," I said, my voice hard. "Get everyone into the tunnels, seal the doors, don't let anyone out." "What about you?" she asked. "What are you going to do?" I looked down at my hands, at the faint golden glow that was already starting to shimmer. "I'm going to face them." I found Lyra in the corridor, standing at the main entrance to the facility. She was wearing a Solaris robe, probably taken from the Solaris who'd visited us a week ago. Her silver-white hair was pulled back, and her eyes were burning with determination. "I knew you'd come here," I said, falling into step beside her. "Where else would I be?" she asked, a small smile crossing her face. "Inside," I said. "Where it's safe." "You know I can't do that," she said. "This is my fight too." I looked at her, at the strength in her posture and the fire in her eyes, and felt a surge of pride. She was so much braver than I'd ever be. "Just stay close to me," I said, "and don't do anything stupid." She laughed, a soft musical sound. "I'll try." The battle. The Solaris ships landed in the clearing where the ambassadors had landed a week ago. 3 of them, massive and menacing, their hulls gleaming in the purple rain. I watched them from the edge of the colony, my heart pounding and my hands glowing gold. "They've been touched," Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can feel it. The taint is strong." "How many are there?" I asked. "Too many," she said. "But they're not going to fight us, not directly. They want to capture me to drain my energy. They won't risk destroying me." "That's good," I said, "because I don't think I can fight an army." The ramp of the lead ship lowered, and a figure stepped out. It was the same Solaris who had spoken to me a week ago. His slitted eyes found me, and I saw them narrow with recognition. "Human," he called out, his voice echoing across the clearing. "I see you've grown stronger. The energy burns brighter in you." "I've been practicing," I said, stepping forward. The Solaris laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "It doesn't matter how strong you are, human. You're one man. We are an army." "I'm not alone," I said, glancing at Lyra. "And I'm not going to back down." The Solaris smiled, a thin, predatory expression. "Then we'll see how long you can fight." He raised his hand, and the soldiers behind him surged forward. I felt Lyra's hand grab mine, and the golden light flared to life, blazing so bright that I had to shield my eyes. "Hold on," I said. "I don't know what's going to happen." "Whatever it is," she said, "I'm ready." The soldiers reached us, and the golden light exploded outward. I felt it hit them like a shockwave, sending them tumbling backward. They screamed, a high-pitched sound that made my ears ring, and clutched at their heads. "What are you doing?" the Solaris leader shouted. "What is this?" "It's the light," I said, barely able to hear myself over the ringing in my ears. "The energy you're carrying, the taint from the forgers, it can't stand the light." The soldiers were writhing on the ground now, their bodies convulsing. The taint was leaving them, black smoke rising from their skin and dissipating in the rain. "You're killing them," the Solaris leader shouted. "I'm saving them," I said. "The taint was poisoning them, it was turning them into monsters." The leader stared at me, his slitted eyes wide with shock. Then slowly he fell to his knees. "What have I become?" he whispered. "What have I done?" I walked toward him, my hands still glowing with the golden light. "You can change," I said. "You can still be saved." He looked up at me, and for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. "Please," he said. "Help me." I reached out and touched his forehead. The golden light flared, burning away the taint. The Solaris cried out, but I held on, refusing to let go until the darkness was gone. When it was over, I collapsed to my knees, exhausted. Lyra was by my side in an instant, her arms around me, holding me up. You did it, she whispered. You saved them. I looked out at the clearing, where the Solaris soldiers were slowly getting to their feet. Their eyes were clear now, free of the taint. They looked at me with wonder. Thank you, one of them said. Thank you for freeing us. I nodded, too tired to speak. The cost. The Solaris soldiers left, their ships disappearing into the sky above Kalar 7. They'd promised to spread the word, to tell the rest of their empire about what had happened. They'd warned that the forgers were coming, and that the only hope was to find the carriers. But I didn't care about any of that. All I cared about was Lyra. She'd been weakened by the battle, her energy depleted. I'd rushed her back to the surgical suite, where I'd worked through the night to stabilize her. Lyra, I said, my voice hoarse. Lyra, wake up. She stirred, her dark eyes fluttering open. Dr. Chen, she murmured, you're still here. I'm not going anywhere, I said. Not until you're better. She smiled, a weak, fragile smile. You're very persistent. I'm a doctor, I said. It's my job. Her smile grew just a little. Dr. Chen, she said, her voice soft. Thank you. For what? For saving me, she said. For saving all of us. I sat there holding her hand and felt the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on me. I'd saved her. I'd saved the Solaris. But I knew the forgers were still out there, waiting. Lyra, I said, what happens now? She looked at me, her dark eyes filled with a sadness that made my heart ache. Now we wait, she said. We wait for the forgers to come, and when they do, we fight. I squeezed her hand, trying to find the words. I'm scared, I admitted. She smiled, a soft, sad smile. So am I, but we don't have to be scared alone. Part 3. The Gathering Storm. It was quiet in the days that followed. The Solaris had left, their ships disappearing into the void, but their absence left a void that felt heavier than any presence. I found myself watching the sky more often, scanning the horizon for signs of something new, something dark. Lyra had recovered fully, but she was different now, quieter, more withdrawn. She spent her days in the observation deck, staring out at the stars that dotted Kalar's 7 perpetually cloudy sky. I'd find her there, wrapped in a blanket, her silver-white hair spilling over her shoulders like a river of moonlight. You're up early, I said one morning, sliding into the seat beside her. The forgers are coming, she said, not turning to look at me. I can feel them. I frowned, a knot of fear forming in my stomach. How do you know? The energy, she said. It's getting closer. I can feel it in the air and the ground. It's like a pressure, like something pressing down on the planet. Can you see them? No, she said, shaking her head. But I know they're there. I can feel the taint. I reached out and took her hand. We'll fight them, I said, together. She turned to me, her dark eyes filled with a sadness that made my chest ache. I don't know if that's enough, she said. The forgers are old, Dr. Chen. They've been around for millions of years. They've destroyed civilizations that were far more advanced than ours. I'm not sure we can stop them. Lyra, I said, my voice firm, we have to try, we have to. There's no other option. She was silent for a long time, staring out at the stars. Then she turned to me, and there was a flicker of hope in her eyes. Promise me, she said. Promise me that whatever happens, you'll stay with me. I promise, I said. And I meant it. The arrival. They came the next night. I was in my quarters trying to get some sleep when the alarms went off. The blaring siren sliced through the quiet like a blade, and I was on my feet in an instant. They're here, I breathed, running to the command center. The facility was a chaos of running bodies and screaming voices, but I pushed through, my heart pounding. When I reached the command center, Tanya was already there, her face pale and her hands shaking. Dr. Chen, she said, pointing at the display, look. The screen showed the space above Kalar 7, and on it, descending through the atmosphere, was a fleet of ships. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, their hulls black and jagged and covered in spikes. The forgers, I breathed. They're not responding, Tanya said. We've tried everything, they're not answering. Get everyone into the shelters, I said. Seal the doors, don't let anyone out. What about you? She asked. I looked out the window where the sky was turning black. I'm going to face them. I found Lyra at the main entrance, her body glowing with the faint purple light of her energy. She was wearing a Solaris battle robe, her silver-white hair pulled back, and there was a look of grim determination on her face. I knew you'd come, she said. Where else would I be? I asked, falling into step beside her. She looked at me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't name. Thank you, she said softly, for everything. Don't thank me yet, I said. We're not done. The fight. The forgers landed on the edge of the colony, their ships disgorging an army of creatures that were more shadow than substance. They moved like wisps of smoke, their forms flickering in the faint light of the facility's lamps. I felt the taint before I saw them, a cold, oppressive presence that pressed down on my mind. It was like the weight of 1,000 nightmares, all bearing down on me at once. Lyra, I said, stay behind me. No, she said, stepping forward. This is my fight. She raised her hand, and the purple light flared to life, bright and beautiful. The forgers recoiled, hissing and spitting like cornered animals. The light, one of them hissed, its voice like gravel scraping against glass. The light of the Solaris, we will consume it. You will try, Lyra said, her voice ringing with power. The battle that followed was like nothing I'd ever seen. The forgers attacked with a fury that was almost animalistic, their claws and fangs tearing at the air. Lyra fought back with the light of her people, each blast of energy sending the creatures reeling. But there were too many of them. For every one she felled, 2 more took its place. Dr. Chen, she called out, her voice strained. I can't hold them back. Hold on, I said, stepping forward. I'm coming. I reached out and touched her shoulder, and the golden light flared to life. It spread from my hand to her body, mingling with the purple light of her energy. Together, we blazed like a supernova, bright and beautiful and devastating. The forgers screamed, a sound that was equal parts rage and terror as the light consumed them. They dissolved into wisps of shadow, their forms crumbling and fading into nothing. But I could feel the strain on my body, the way the energy was draining me. The golden light was flickering now, dimming. Dr. Chen, Lyra said, her voice frantic, you can't stop, keep going. I'm trying, I said, my voice hoarse. I'm trying. I was floating in the void. There was nothing around me, no light, no sound. Just an endless, empty expanse of darkness. I tried to move, but I couldn't. I tried to call out, but my voice was silent. Lyra, I thought. Lyra, are you there? There was no response, just the darkness pressing in on me from all sides. Then I saw it, a flicker of light in the distance, faint but unmistakable. Lyra, I breathed, and I tried to move toward it. The darkness resisted me, its tendrils wrapping around my limbs and dragging me back. I fought against them, my body burning with the effort. Dr. Chen, Lyra's voice soft and urgent. Dr. Chen, can you hear me? I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. Please, she said, please. Don't leave me. I closed my eyes and focused on her voice, on the warmth it carried. I felt the golden light stir inside me, faint but still there. I'm here, I thought, I'm right here. And I pushed. I woke up in the surgical suite. The lights were dim and I could hear the quiet hum of the equipment. There was a presence beside me, warm and familiar. Lyra, I asked, my voice hoarse. You're awake. Her voice was soft, filled with relief. I was so worried. I turned my head and found her sitting beside the bed, her eyes red-rimmed and her silver-white hair tangled. She looked exhausted, but she was smiling. What happened? I asked. The forgers. Gone, she said. You drove them away. The golden light, it was so bright. It purged the taint from the colony. I sighed, a wave of relief washing over me. That's good. That's really good. It's more than good, Lyra said. It's miraculous. The forgers are gone, Dr. Chen. You saved us. I looked at her, at the joy and relief in her eyes, and felt a warmth spread through my chest. I couldn't have done it without you, I said. You were the one who gave me strength. She reached out and took my hand. Together, she said, her voice soft. We did it together. I nodded, too exhausted to speak. The resolution. The colony celebrated that night. There were cheers and laughter, and the kind of joy that comes when you survive something you thought would destroy you. I stayed in the surgical suite with Lyra, holding her hand and watching the celebration on the main display. It felt distant, like a dream I was watching from far away. The forgers will come back, Lyra said, breaking the silence. I know, I said. But not for a long time, she said. You've bought us time. I nodded, not knowing what to say. Dr. Chen, she said, turning to me, what will you do now? I looked at her, at the way the faint light from the display caught her silver-white hair, and felt a certainty I hadn't expected. I'm going to stay with you, I said. Whatever happens, whatever comes, I'm going to stay with you. She smiled, a soft, sad smile that made my chest ache. You don't have to do that, she said. You have your own life. You are my life, I said. You and the colony, you're all I have. She reached out and touched my cheek. Dr. Chen, she said, I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything, I said. Just promise me you'll stay. I promise, she said. And I knew in that moment that everything was going to be okay. Lyra and I walked through the colony, hand in hand, watching the colonists rebuild. The forgers had left their mark, but the colony was strong, and the people were determined to keep going. We should tell them the truth, Lyra said one day, watching a group of children play in the mud. About the forgers, about the carriers, about everything. I nodded. I know, but now isn't the time. They need to heal first. She looked at me, her dark eyes filled with something I couldn't name. You've changed, she said. The golden light has changed you. Has it? I asked. I don't feel different. Maybe not, she said, but I can see it. You're stronger, more determined. I looked at her, at the way the faint sunlight caught her silver-white hair, and felt a warmth spread through my chest. Maybe, I said, maybe the light just helped me see what was already there. She smiled, a soft, radiant smile that made my heart skip a beat. You're a good man, Dr. Chen. The galaxy is lucky to have you. Don't say that, I said. I'm just a doctor. You're a doctor who saved the galaxy, she said. That's more than most people can say. I leaned down and kissed her forehead, feeling the warmth of her skin against my lips. I'm not going anywhere, I said. Not without you. And in that moment, with Lyra in my arms and the colony safe behind me, I felt the weight of the galaxy lift from my shoulders. Because I knew, with a certainty that surprised me, that no matter what came next, I would face it with her by my side. And that was enough.